Hey, what's going on everybody? Nicholas Lawrence here and welcome to Bermuda. This is a super exciting project for me, something that is just so much fun. It's visual and practical, and this is something that you can just carry around with you and supply super visual and really impossible looking magic. That's just super easy and it's practical to do. So I think you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of this. You're gonna have a lot of fun both on video and in real life. So kind of before we get into this, let's point out the obvious that this is based off of the pre-torn principle. This is something that goes back to the 1930s, where a very popular magician, Theodore Animan, would actually make a corner vanish and appear inside of a cigar or inside of a frozen ice cube, which I think is very interesting. We're gonna get more into that later. But if you really wanna look at all the people that are responsible for taking this further and kind of performing over the years and keeping it alive, for all of us to still perform and enjoy today, I think number one, I'd have to mention Daniel Madison. This guy has put out, I think, multiple books involving what he calls Angle Z or Angle Zero, which I think because of him, he's the one who really kept it alive and taught it to the masses and taught some really awesome stuff. So definitely, if you enjoy this effect and you want to learn more about the pre-torn principle, I really want to give it up to Daniel Madison, because that guy is really taking it to the next level. I've mentioned Theodore Animan from the very, very early 1930s, but also magicians like David Harkey, Jay Sankey, and Jack Channon. He would focus on tearing bills with this, as well as some of the other magicians I've named. But knowing the principle and how it works, it's a really, really great trick. But what I wanted to do here was I wanted to add a visual convincer. Not just something visual and eye-popping, but as you've seen from the trailer, you can do this with cover as well. So it's not about it being the most visual trick in the world, though it can be. It's about being the most practical and most convincing. So it's just taking it to another level and just me expressing myself and my contribution to the pre-torn principle. So I guess with all that said, let's dive into what you receive and let's see what the heck this thing is and how to use it. All right, so let's take a look at what you receive inside the packaging. You're going to see you have a pre-torn gimmick, okay? And you're gonna notice this thing is gonna look and feel just like a playing card, because in all intents and purposes, it really is. It's just a gimmicked single playing card. Now, at first, by looking at it, you're not really gonna see much, depending on the lighting that you're in. But basically, right here in the middle, there's a little corner, okay, that is just camouflaged on the card. It can move around a little bit. Don't stretch it out too far, but you can see you can move it around, and it has the imagery here, the artwork of the court card, so it blends in, okay, using a camouflage. And then if you were to flip this over, you'll see it looks like a torn corner. So that is the basics of the gimmick and what you've received. Now we're going to learn how to use this gimmick. So stay tuned. Okay, so now we're going to go over a few different ways to make this corner vanish, how to perform this, how to use it. Not so much the routine quite yet, just really the mechanics on the different options that you have, just to really get familiarized with this gimmick before we even get into a routine. So as I already broke down what it is, kind of just an important little thing, you might have noticed that your corner might be a little bit bent upward or downward. You can always just take this and press it underneath some books, lay it nice and flat overnight, and it's just kind of a good thing to do when you're not using the gimmick. It's just kind of keep it in a pressed, maybe inside of a deck of cards. That way it'll stay nice and flat and it always looks its proper best. Besides that, we're going to kind of go into how to tear it first and foremost. So what I like to do is, I'm kind of giving you as an over-the-shoulder view. I think that's kind of best for this particular trick. But basically you have it like this. So you're just hiding this torn corner, okay? And from the audience's perspective, it's gonna look like a full card, okay? And then what you do is you just rotate it around like this. So you show them the front and you're showing them the back, okay? At this point, you're gonna pretend to tear off that corner. So what I like to do is take my thumb, put it here, okay? Or kind of just, you'll get a feel for what's best for you. But what we're gonna do is kind of flex this card so I can get this corner to lift up a little bit, the gimmick, okay? And I get my thumb underneath it like this, okay? You can even get this thumb over here if you want. But essentially, like I said, you're gonna show, you're gonna kind of flex, get your thumb underneath, start to tear, and you'll see it just kind of falls over on its own, just like that. So once you're tearing, you put that focus in a 1, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Don't go over 4. I think that's just too much. Just 1, 2, 3 maybe. For about 1 second, the pretend corner is going to be at your fingertips, okay? At this point, you've got two options. You can just place it down on the card, or you can really quickly kind of grab the corner off of the cards, kind of like just upward a little bit. And that's just going to add a little bit of maybe like a 3D-ness to it, just so it pops and it's a little more, I guess, dynamic than just placing it down. But honestly, most of the time I just place it down like that. At this point, I like to move it around just a little bit, just to kind of show the realness and the authenticity of the situation, okay? And then you're going to go into a series of vanishes. So kind of practice that, get comfortable with just showing the card, rotating it around, getting your thumb underneath, pretending to tear, placing the corner down, and moving it around just a little bit. Okay, you're going to do that pretty much for all of the different vanishes. So kind of get used to that. Basically, there's a series of different ways you can make this vanish, as you've seen from the trailer. If you want to do visual, this thing is great for visual. If you want to do non-visual, we'll get more into that in a moment. But let's just say for sake, if you just pinch anywhere, if you look at this corner like it's an arrow, if you look anywhere on this side of the corner and pinch anywhere over here, okay, depending on the sizes of your fingers, and there's little things, it's always going to be a little bit different. But basically, if you just flick this card corner, sometimes going up will do it. You'll see it just flicks itself around, or downward like this, okay? It's all about kind of getting a feel for it. I call this the flick because there really is so many different ways to do a little bit of a flick on a corner to make it disappear. And you guys are going to kind of get to know that by playing with this. But just a rule of thumb is just, you can also just do this, which looks cool. You guys know Shin Lim. I got this in his hands, and the first thing he did was have the spectator extend their finger, and almost like they're the last person to touch the corner, he just goes like this and goes upward like that. And that's a really nice vantage, especially if you're going to make it go underneath their watch, which we'll go over reveals later. But just talking about the flick, right? So just play with it and flick the card around and see what works best for you. Moving on to the next vanish, I'm just going to call this one the blow, because you're just blowing at the card. And how this works is you want the round tear portion of the card, or the corner, facing you. So when you blow at this, just like that, you can get it to flip. Now, if you're having a hard time, you can curl this a little bit, so that way the air is going to catch underneath, just like that. You can also do this with cover, which you've seen in the trailer, which looks really cool. You just hold the card like this, and I just have a little bit of a pinch, so that way it's not going to fall between my thumb and my pinky. And I'm going to blow on that corner as I wave, okay? Just like that. And that looks super cool on video. It looks really awesome. I think there's so many other great options in person, but you can totally do that as well, maybe if you're performing for maybe 1 or 2 people. There really is so many different ways to do this. We've covered the blow, we've covered the flick. The wave, the proper wave, which I'm about to teach you guys, is so much fun. And the cool thing is this can be done visual or non-visual. And how this is going to work, instead of just leaving the corner flat on the card, okay, and doing these kinds of things, what you're actually going to do is you're going to pinch the corner with your first finger like this and your thumb. You're going to pick it up off the card, not too high, okay? And you're going to use your second finger underneath the card like this. So you're kind of getting into this position here, okay? And what's going to happen is this is now above the card, about close to 1 inch or 1/2 inch. When you start to release pressure, this is going to curl around your fingertip and disappear like this. So you can do this with a wave, And before I go any further, you're going to notice some sound. This is not meant to be performed in a quiet environment. You want people talking, you want music. So when you hear this little sound like that, you're not going to hear it. It's a little bit louder, if not the same volume as maybe like a flap card or a lot of gimmicks, magnets and whatnot. So just definitely choose your environment wisely for this. If you're going to do it on video, make sure you edit the video so that way they can't hear the sound. But yeah, so basically when you're in this position, you can just wave your hand over it and just release. And that looks super cool. You can also do this with cover just by dumping it into your hand, okay? And all you're gonna do is just let that go once I know they can't see the corner anymore, like this. Let it go, close the hand, show the card, place it down, and just make it really, really clean, just like that original effect. But now they actually get to see the card being torn, they see the corner, everything is super, super clean. And kind of a cool point to mention is, guys, there's not any heat on this card. There never has been heat on the card since the very beginning of this effect, close to 100 years ago, if not further. It's always on the corner. Where did it go? And it's so easy for the magician to kind of say, you know, you've been holding that card box, or you know what, it's interesting, you know, you were watching so closely, watch, oh, look at your watch, and then it's underneath your watch or whatever. But what's great is there's no focus on this, and we're going to get into how to switch this later, but I can just say quickly, top change. That's it. As soon as they're looking at the corner, you top change it, and it's a just amazing effect, and it just feels so clean. But just considering that we've got visuals, we've got non-visuals, right? This is going to feel so magical once you actually perfect this and you get out there and use it. But you can see we've covered the flick, different types of flicks, blows, this non-visual and visual move like this. This also can be done really visual by just shaking it. So just kind of going like this. And that looks so cool, right? And that is pretty much it when it comes to how to utilize a gimmick. But the best part is because it's so manual, you're going to be able to come up with your own versions of vanishing the corner. So, I mean, this is a very basic one. Technically, you could just reach over and pick it up. And it's gone just by turning it over. With a little bit of cover of the rest of your fingers, it looks like you really picked up that corner and it's just gone. So, just another one. All right, so now that you guys have so many different ways to vanish the corner, let's get into the main routine and kind of just cover the basics. Okay, so let's get into how to perform the actual effect and kind of just get over the basics here. So what you're going to need is a deck of cards, card box, your Bermuda gimmick, ready to go, a matching card and torn corner, roughly the same size, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to place the regular card down on top of the deck, just like that. You can see that corner kind of blends in really nicely. You can hide it, but also just kind of be wary about it. It does blend in quite nicely, but just be careful that you don't flash it. Put the gimmick on top of it in the same fashion, the corner on top of that, and place everything inside the card box. Just like that, okay? And the reason you put the corner on top of the deck while you put it in is that way you know when you open up, when you take the deck out, you know it's not getting stuck between the cards, and it's just gonna fall out and actually fall inside the box, okay? At this point, I take the cards out, I place them down, I close the box, and ask the spectator to hold on to the box for me. So we're gonna use that in a moment, okay? At this point, all you can do, you can just say, you know, I'm gonna show you guys a trick with just one card. And you can do this just by lightly thumbing off the gimmick, okay? Not by putting pressure because you don't wanna break the gimmick, but just by thumbing it off lightly, showing most of the card, like this. You can go into the effect. If you do want them to feel like they've chosen a card, you can just swing cut half the deck over, keeping a break with your pinky, like this, right? And just by riffling through the deck, you can say, just say stop, all right? And you just do it in this position like this. They say stop. And instead of picking up where they actually said stop, you just pick up at your pinky break, just like that. And then you complete the cut. Okay, and what this is going to do, oh, let's keep that gimmick right there. Make sure you're keeping your pinky break at both the torn corner and the gimmick. Okay, so you just complete the cut and lightly thumb off one card. So do me a favor, remember this card and be like, you know, it's okay, I can see it too, and turn it around. So now they've seen both sides of the card, and they haven't seen that the card is already torn. At this point, take the deck, place it down. You'll get back to it in a minute. Perform the pre-torn phase, which you guys have already seen, just by bowing the card slightly, getting your thumb underneath. 1, 2, 3. Pretend to put it down, move it around a little bit. A really nice little kind of nuanced subtlety that they really feel like that's actually happening. Everything feels so authentic, right? You move it around a little bit, they can see that. From this point, you can execute any of the vanishes, okay? If you want to do it non-visual, I really like to kind of go like this. Just dump it inside the hand, like that, right? We already went over this. Great. And it slowly just vanishes, okay? The best part is once you've made this vanish, some people that I've taught this to were kind of thinking, oh, you know, the gimmick, people are going to grab for it, or that has never been the case. And this trick is over 100 years old. Maybe not this particular method, but nobody's ever cared about the card. The attention is on the corner. You've made this piece of paper just vanish at your fingertips. Where did it go? Everybody wants to know. And because you put attention on the box that's in their hands the entire time, they forget about everything else in the world, and all they care about is opening up that box to discover if that corner has really teleported. So keep that in mind, guys. And you know, if you do want to place it down, because you know everything's on the table now, if you want to pick it back up to prepare for a switch, which I'm going to go over in a second, you can even say, look, it didn't go underneath the card. It didn't go underneath the deck. Be like, guys, look, it's truly gone. Take a look inside the box. When they're opening up that box, all you have to do is the simplest thing in the world. Take the card, bring it close to the deck, push off this card, and just exchange. Just like that. That's all you're doing. Okay? So you've got your gimmick. Oh, this one's the gimmick. Okay? And you're just going to come over and do this. Okay? This is called the top change. This is going to be the easiest time to ever perform the top change because you have such misdirection, because they have so much anticipation on opening that box. Once you've gotten here, you can do this as slow as you want. They'll never notice it. Okay, at this point, they're going to open the box. They're going to dump out the corner. You're going to hand them the card. And you even just put it on the table so it gives them something to do. You say, make sure that it matches. Right? You say, guys, this is a good trick, but it's only as good as a trick if it actually matches. So take a look, make sure. They're going to line everything up. When they're doing that, all you have to do is take the deck and go behind your body and thumb this card off into your back pocket if you want to end completely clean. That'll fall into your back pocket. You come back out with the deck. You spread it out. And now you're left completely clean with everything examinable. And you've just done that classic effect, but so much cleaner because they have actually seen it be torn. They've seen the corner. They've seen it vanish, right? This isn't something they have to use their imagination. So when they look back and they think back, they could say, no, he really tore it. I seen it. It vanished and it appeared inside my hands. So I'm sure you guys are starting to kind of pick up how powerful of an effect this really is. Taking a classic that's been around forever and just taking it up a notch. So guys, enjoy the basics here. Get out there, perform it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys come up with. So let's go on and move on to what's next. All right, so let's talk about card reveals and where you're going to make your corner vanish and appear. So as you guys see in the trailer, I make a card corner appear inside of a sugar packet. I'm going to teach you 2 different versions for that. I'm also going to mention a few other different ways as well. We've already talked about appearing inside the card box, which is very simple, but really, really effective because it does actually happen in their hands, which makes it really strong. As well as the sugar packet. So we're going to get into the easier version right now, which is very simple. All you're going to do is shake your sugar packet down so that the sugar is down at the bottom. Take a razor blade and be very careful with this. If you're under the age of 18, definitely have your parents do this for you. What you're going to do is you're just going to take it and make a slit. Okay, not perfectly straight, but kind of jagged. Just place it on the table. And you're just going to kind of cut through the sugar and not cut through the entire sugar packet. Okay? At this point, you can go ahead and just shake the sugar back down to the other side. Okay? Now you're able to load your card corner inside there, and then just place the sugar packet into, if you're at a restaurant, you can kind of just sit it inside the sugar packet holder, upright like this. And then later, all you have to do is reach over, grab it, and you're just gonna tear right through. And the cool thing is, you can kind of show this like front and back quickly. Just kind of just flashing it like this. You could totally show it, but you really don't need to. Just keep that in mind. All you have to do is just take it, show there's nothing else in your hands, and tear through where you cut. Just like that. At this point, you can dump out the sugar, and of course, because you've loaded it in the card corner, that's gonna be your reveal. So that one is a lot of fun, and it's so easy. You can even use a butter knife at the table. You don't have to use this because the butter knives are usually a little serrated. You can kind of just run it on the sugar once you get all at the end here, and it'll just cut through that top layer, no problem. So kind of keep that in mind. It's a lot of fun, easy to set up. Another one is doing it with just an ordinary sugar packet that's completely sealed. So how we're going to get into that is you're actually going to use a pair of scissors, but I'm just going to use this blade for now. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut off just the top portion of the sugar packet. You're going to cut off the least amount possible, just where the glue line stops. Okay, so you can get rid of this. Go ahead and load in a card corner. So you just place in the matching corner, just like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to take some glue stick and you're just going to seal this shut. This is very easy to do just by running the glue stick on the edge. You don't even need a lot, just a little bit. This is very light paper. So just by getting it to go like this, great. You can now seal that shut, let that dry, and you're good to go. You've got a sealed sugar packet that nobody would ever suspect. So look at that, ready to go. And now it is going to appear inside their hands, just like so. So another really fun reveal, guys, that I've got a lot of mileage with, that is just unbelievable because it's appearing inside their hands, inside a sealed sugar packet that they actually tear open. So much fun. I also mentioned making a torn corner appear inside of an ice cube. And that is super crazy. And I read about this, believe it or not, Theodore Animan. He has published a ton of mentalism, but also practical magic as well. And he would perform this and make it appear inside of a cigar or inside of an ice cube. And that just blew my mind thinking back, the 1930s. How was he doing that? How was he basically overcoming the issue of the torn corner? How did he, solve putting this inside water and it not becoming saturated and falling apart? And the only thing I could think of is he figured out how they were waterproofing shoes back in the day, maybe some sort of wax that he would just rub on the corner. But I'm going to mention something even way better than that. And this is how I do it, is I use something called Never Wet. This is a awesome waterproof spray that you could pick up on Amazon. And all you're going to do is you're just going to spray one side of the corner, okay? Let it completely dry, come back to it, like an hour later, come back and spray the other side. And I suggest that because I want to make sure that this corner is completely sealed. So I don't want to touch it or disturb it. So once you've done that, you could do it with a few corners at a time. So it just kind of, saves you time and you've got a bunch ready to go. But just keep that in mind, that Never Wet is going to allow you to put this inside of an ice cube tray. And this is not going to absorb any water. So when you crack it open, it doesn't look, there's not a bunch of contrast of this like destroyed corner with the card. It just looks perfect and it goes right over people's heads. And those are just a couple fun examples of where to make the corner appear. But you can also make this appear anywhere, guys, legitimately anywhere. I'm sure you guys have seen people make coins or folded cards or corners appear underneath your spectator's watch. That's as simple as just performing a trick before this trick in which you have to grab their wrists. And basically what you can do is you can kind of just pinch this corner like this, okay? Grab their wrist and just literally load it underneath their watch while they're kind of distracted by something else. So maybe an interesting idea could be, you have a coin in your hand. You say, do me a favor, hold out your hand like this. Okay, they put their hand like this. You grab their wrist. You say, in a second, I'm going to have you try to grab that coin out of my hand. You don't even have to do a trick, guys. Just by doing that, they're so consumed in what you're saying and want to see a magic trick that you say, in a second here, I'm going to have you grab for that coin before I can close my hand. Okay, you do that. You load the corner underneath their watch. Okay, you say, you ready? Keep it about, the reason why you're grabbing their wrist is maybe you say, I want to keep it right about a foot above my hand, just there, perfect. You've loaded it, and then you say, maybe from here, instead you grab it and do like a retention vanish and squeeze it like this. You say, but you know what? The hand is quicker than the eye. So now they think that you were just making a coin vanish. You say, you go ahead and put your hand down. I want to show you guys something else. That's when you perform Bermuda. So now you've loaded the corner underneath their watch. Definitely a lot of fun. Play around with that. We've covered the card box, the ice cube, mentioned instead of a cigar. That's for certain people, but that's definitely fun. Mentioning you can have it appear anywhere, under their watch. A really fun one, Justin Miller actually has this appear inside of their actual hand, which is crazy. And he talks about how you can make it appear inside their hand. And I think that the best way to learn that is to look up Justin Miller's At the Table lecture. You're going to learn a ton of material, but just learning how he gets it inside their hand. It's not just as simple as just putting it into their hand. You have to learn the subtleties, and just to pay respect to Justin Miller, definitely go check that out if that's more your style. So that's another really fun one. Another really cool idea is to take the corner and to load it inside of a deck of cards so that it's sitting on top of a second selection, or maybe one selection, and the queen is going to find their card. So you tear off the corner, it vanishes, and now when you cut the deck, you find the corner sitting on top of the chosen card. That's also a lot of fun. This is something you guys can get so creative with, guys. And I think just by diving into books like, Angle Z, or books by Daniel Madison where he talks about the pre-torn principle, you're going to learn some other fun reveals as well. Next, we're going to learn how to make your own Bermuda gimmick, as well an interesting idea from Garrett Thomas that I think you guys are also going to enjoy, and it's something for you just to explore. First thing you're going to do is take the card that you want to use, which I prefer the Queen of Hearts because it just has the perfect amount of space, but you could pretty much use any court card for this. And the idea I'm going to cover with Garrett is you can actually use any card. I'll save that for last. First thing we're going to do is just tear off the corner of the card, keeping it pretty small. And what I like to do is I like to tear just underneath the heart, pretty much touching the tip of the heart, cut through the heart, and then go through the second hump. Just like that. So it's a very small corner. Okay, it's just big enough. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to take a safety pin and we're going to put a couple holes through the card. Okay, and I think the best way to mark this is you can kind of experiment with what works best for you, but you're just going to go right through the angel's chest. Just like that, right kind of through between the head and the chest. Okay, poke a hole, do the same thing on the other side. Okay, you're also going to need some prim elastic, which I'm going to go ahead and put that up so you guys can see it. You can get this off Amazon for $6. This is the stuff they use for flap cards and all sorts of gimmicks. Yeah, if you had a pair of scissors, which I'm just going to go ahead and use a razor blade and a spare card. Okay, and you need about 10 inches or so. Okay, just so you have this piece ready to go. And we're going to thread it through those holes. Okay, you can use a needle for this. You can use a needle threader. I prefer just to pinch it at my fingertips and have a very, very small amount just sticking out and then just poking it through the holes. Okay, this isn't for everybody. You might need to use a needle because you do need to kind of hold it close to your face so you can see what you're doing. But you just push it through, okay? And all you're gonna do is just tie a couple simple knots. Now, this is a little bit hard to get used to because it's so small, but it really is as simple as tying your shoes, guys. This is just tying knots in the card. So that's 1, 2, and 3 to make it nice and secure. Okay, and then you're gonna need to trim off the excess. So I'm just gonna use a razor blade, but you guys definitely use a pair of scissors just to keep it looking just a little bit cleaner. So I'll just go ahead and trim that off. All right, you guys can't see it, but it is there. Now, we're gonna need to do a couple more things. We're gonna need some glue stick. We're gonna need an extra queen because we're gonna split this. If you guys don't know how to split cards, there's definitely courses on how to learn how to do this. There's downloads for like $5 and it'll teach you how to do this, but I can kind of just show you what I do. If I need the face of a card, I turn it over and I grab the corner with my thumbnail and I'm just gonna kind of curl the corner like this, kind of pinch and pull, okay? And that's gonna kind of separate the glue a little bit. Next, I'm gonna kind of fold over the corner of the card, but I'm gonna fold over the least amount possible. The smallest corner you can push over, the better. What that's gonna do is it's gonna separate the corner even more. You pick it apart like this, and you can see I've actually separated that face layer. Okay, once you get here, you can go ahead and slowly peel off just a little bit more. Once you get here, put this face down onto a table, and you're going to keep your finger on the piece, the layer that you want, and you're gonna peel off what you don't want. So just like this, okay? And you can move your fingers along to keep the layer that you want really flat. So just like that. And it doesn't matter if you don't split this perfectly because we only need the center of the card. So really all of this isn't even needed, right? But you don't want to tear it because you want most of your card to make this line up in a second. But just to point out, if you mess up, you probably didn't mess up for this particular trick. So keep that in mind. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the card corner, okay? And this is going to get placed underneath the elastic, trapping that little knot. You can either have the knot on this side or this side. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to basically put the corner in this fashion underneath the actual tear and face down, okay? And then also what you're gonna do is you're gonna place a little bit of glue on the corner of the card. You're gonna apply the glue stick to the torn part of the corner, just like so, okay? Just leaving the actual corner of the card itself with no glue. Place it underneath, just like this, making sure not to pass the red. Okay, you can see the red or the blue or whatever you're using. Make sure that the elastic is going right along the actual graphic or the artwork of the card. At this point, you feel like it's pretty centered within the artwork of the card, go ahead and apply your split layer just by lining up the corners of the card, just like so. Okay, and just get it so that it's as close as you can. Give it a press on that glue. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna lock itself in place in that position. So now when you remove it, just like this, without breaking the elastic, okay, it slips right out, you can now trim around this. Again, using scissors will make this much easier, but you can go ahead and just trim this out, okay? And also if you have a card corner, it'll make a card corner cutter, that'll make this much easier as well. It'll just make it look a little nicer, but it's really not needed. Especially in the beginning when you're just kind of learning the effect and you just want to make them for yourself and start practicing. If you're performing this full time, yeah, definitely get yourself a card corner so that way you can make tons of these and they look perfect. But just for now, just going to teach you guys the basics here. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and just trim the roundness of the corner. Again, I mentioned that corner rounder. You can get one of those as well, or just use maybe a pair of fingernail clippers. That also works quite well. So now that you've done that, and you know that you didn't glue down the actual corner, that means you can lift up this piece a little bit, okay? Because all you're gonna do now is apply a little bit more glue, just like so, and you're gonna trap the layers around that elastic, just like this, and making sure to not only line up the artwork, okay, line up the artwork the best you can. Okay, so I'm going to take my time, make sure that looks really good. Press it down. Okay, and then sometimes I even like to give this a little bit of a trim, because I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like two little stars. There's two here, and there's two here on the Queen of Hearts. I like those to be visible, so that way when you're doing the effect, there's like this perfect blend of artwork. And even if this is shifted over to the left or right, you'll never notice it, because those really capture your attention. These little swiggles going across, these bands going across really capture your attention. Her kind of neck, all these little checkered images. It's really, really distracting. There's so much to look at, but I really feel like those little flower star things should be visible and just makes it look so good. But guys, you just made your gimmick. You can see how simple this is to actually make. Okay, go ahead and let that dry, because you don't want this to be moving around too much, because you don't want the elastic to be shifting around and then this thing's way offset. So keep that in mind, let it dry, and then you're ready to go. So let's kind of go back to where I started. In the beginning, I mentioned Garrett Thomas had this really cool idea and how you could use any card from the entire deck of cards. And how he came up with this was, instead of actually tearing the queen, you tear any other card. So let's say it's the King of Clubs, okay? You tear the King of Clubs corner, and that's what you stick down here. So now you'd have the entire deck of cards like this, okay? And now you've torn the 10 of clubs or whatever card, and now you've just placed it on top of the deck. Okay, so now it's going to be sitting here. So now there's a torn 10 of clubs corner sitting on top of a Queen of Hearts that, again, has not been torn, guys, right? His idea is to use it as a base, so that way you can truly use any card. So if you guys remember earlier, I talked about this really simple way to vanish a corner, and that's just by grabbing the deck or holding the deck and basically just turning this over like this, but using the cover of your fingers. Let me get this to come up. This one's really flat. There you go. And basically just by kind of using the cover of your fingers, you could turn this over like this. And it looks so clean, right? You just made that corner completely vanish. So such a smart idea that's just not going to limit you to just court cards. So just thinking about that, maybe you have your favorite card. I know I have a friend who has a card corner tattooed, and this idea allows him to actually still perform it with the torn corner tattoo. So just keep that in mind, guys. This is a fun idea. But I guess with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to what's next. All right, so this is a really cool black sticker that is going to allow you to do a really fun bonus idea. So with my years of experience of performing the pre-torn principle, I've heard this a ton. And people kind of say at the end, they say, hey, can you put the card back together? It's almost 50-50s. Half the people say it, half the people don't. And having this, or even really just being able to switch the card and make a restore is such a fun trick, but this is such a fun visual, and I wanted to teach you guys how to do it. So what I have here is just some black adhesive felt, which I just trimmed in the shape of a corner, and I just got this off Amazon. Really cheap, really affordable, and it's great for black art. And what I've done is I just stick this to the corner of the card, like this, okay? Now, in the right environment, this is gonna blend in so nicely with black. I don't know how well this is gonna look on camera here, but in a lot of environments, it's gonna truly look like a torn corner. And especially if you just perform Bermuda and you've done your top change, right? There's no reason why this corner shouldn't be torn, because they just seen you tear it. All the focus is where did the corner go, and now you're just sitting here holding a torn corner, which if you're wearing a black shirt, this will just blend in and look like a torn corner. Basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the corner from them, okay? And before even matching it up or anything like that, you just say, you know, just take it and don't make it about matching the corner. So take it and say, yeah, isn't that wild? That's, you know, teleportation. Let me show you as another effect in magic, one of my favorites. Okay, what you place this in your hand, not like this, but like this, just going along your pinky. So that way, this corner is going to blend into your t-shirt, and they're not going to be able to see it. It's just going to look like a tear. Okay, what I do is I bring the corner close to the card, just like this. Okay, and let me just tip upward so you guys can see this. I go like that, and I grip the card in the corner, okay? And actually, I'm holding the card like this, from here to here, so that way I can come over and pinch both of them together, okay? So I can kind of start to lift it out of the hands, which at this point, it gives a really cool effect. It looks kind of like a Luber Fiedler idea of his ghost corner. It looks like somehow this torn corner is able to kind of start to control the rest of the card. So you're kind of getting this ghost corner effect that's going to lead into a restoration in a moment. So kind of keep that in mind. You're here, you reach over, you grip the card like so, you get here temporarily, okay? You're going to let go of your grip like this as you start to tilt forward. I like to keep the corner touching my skin, like this, so it's tipping forward, up, 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 up. Then it's going to separate from the hand. So now we've got this two effects happening. We've got the Luber Fiedler ghost corner effect. Then we've got an actual, what appears to be like a levitation, okay? And then all of a sudden you're going to just start to pull the card in like this. That's all you're doing. But from the front, it really looks like the card is starting to kind of heal itself. Just like that, okay? Once you feel like it's pretty much lined up and you can't see any more black, what I like to do is just flip the card over like so and start to shake, okay? So all together, it looks really nice. You're here, you come over, it starts to look like it's coming together, you start to separate, it starts to go together, you turn it over, you give it a shake, okay? At this point, you're gonna do something very important. And this is gonna make this effect super clean. And you're going to basically shift this corner up, then shift it down so that it goes underneath the sticker, okay? It's gonna take a little bit of practice, but once you get it here, you can pinch it together and toss this up into the air. At this point, this does two things. One, convince the audience that the corner really has restored because you're not palming anything, but then also, it allows them to create some confusion so that way they don't know which corner is which. So when I rotate this around and I gesture towards this corner, I say, look, you can even pull on that, okay? They're not really worried about this corner temporarily. And all you have to do is just slide these two pieces off as you're pulling. So at this point, it doesn't matter which corner is which because you've restored it. You've already slid off the two pieces. These are stuck to each other, so it's very simple to kind of ditch into your pocket, finger palm. Guys, this is just a fun idea, and I really had to mention it, and at least mention the idea of looking into corner restoration effects after performing this effect. It's really going to take it to new heights, but I really hope you enjoyed this little bit of practical black art magic that you can perform and practice. So have fun with that, guys. Okay, guys, so that is a wrap on Bermuda. I hope you enjoyed everything that was taught. I know I had a lot of fun breaking it all down and sharing it with you guys. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time now. This is actually one of my oldest creations, and to finally be able to take it and produce it and make it an actual gimmick for you guys to have and hold and use is really special to me. Kind of going back to maybe just shy of a decade. This is something that was in my early repertoire, in my early kind of sessions of wanting to produce magic. But because there was so much pre-torn principle stuff already out there, I didn't want to step on any toes. I kind of wanted to wait for my proper time to kind of shine. But also some of the methodology is shared from other magicians as well. And because it was an independent creation of myself, I still didn't want to step on any toes. But I felt like I've given both and all of those effects plenty enough time to breathe and kind of have their own spotlight. And now it's finally time for Bermuda to shine. So guys, get out there, perform it, practice it. I really hope you enjoy it as much as I have. If you do post it on social media, go ahead and just share and tag me. I really appreciate it. That's always nice to give a little bit of credit for the guys who came up with it, especially if your audience is magicians. If your audience are laymen, don't bother tagging people, but I think it's always important to kind of let the community know what's what and where it came from, and it just kind of keeps it going and allows others to, maybe if they see Bermuda, they can come and pick it up and learn it for themselves from the proper source. So guys, with all that said, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.